What is up, guys? It is Joe. We are back. We're talking ball about the Cats today, and in today's video, I'm going to provide an update on Coleman Hawkins, where Kansas State stands at with the Illinois transfer, as well as touch base on the newest Kansas State Wildcat, a three-star receiver, Adonis Moise from the Florida area. I'm going to give my thoughts on both. And before we get into the video, let me tell you this. Yesterday, I was actually on Cocaine Willie, so shout out to my guys over there for having me. If you haven't checked out that episode, be sure and go pop over there so you can see me talking ball with the boys. And if you're not subscribed to that show, you absolutely should be, as well as on this channel here as we keep getting through the offseason one step at a time, one video at a time. But I'm going to start with Adonis Moise before I get into Coleman Hawkins and touch base on the newest future Cat. Talking about Adonis Moise now, the first thing that comes to mind about all this situation, all the guys that you've brought in already through the class of 2025, each player they've already signed is just outside, the top 800. The lowest ranking recruit we have right now, I think, is Dylan Duff at 834. And every single person on this list is due for an upgrade. K-State had a defensive back, Martell Jackson, as well. I should mention him real quick. From the Derby area, a defensive back, a 6'2 track guy who is definitely going to have a bright future with Kansas State, if you had to ask me right now. Within 2 days of committing to Kansas State, maybe a day and a half roughly, he received a 3-star rating on 247 Sports, as well as listed something, maybe the 7th or 8th best player in the state. I forget off the top of my head. But specifically talking about Adonis Moise, let me read you his stats before I give you my thoughts. I'll play some of his highlights here as well from his time at IMG Academy. And that should definitely catch your eye. IMG Academy is big time. I mean, they're a Florida institute that just breeds NFL talent. Adonis Moise playing there, he is currently listed as a 3-star prospect by the 247 Sports Index, as well as the 711th ranked player in the nation. He's currently listed as the 113th ranked player at his position and the 97th ranked player in the state of Florida. He stands 6 foot tall, weighing 180 pounds as it sits right now. Heading into his senior season, he will play one last season at IMG Academy before coming to Kansas State. Now, this is the offer list because there's some impressive offers on here, and there's a lot of them to say that. Let me start off here at the top and roll our way through. Appalachian State, Boston College, Buffalo, FIU, Florida A&M, Indiana, Kansas, Marshall, Massachusetts, Pittsburgh, Toledo, UAB, UCF, Vanderbilt, West Virginia. So 15-ish schools all battling for him. Best offers being Kansas, West Virginia, UCF, and UCF has been on a freaking tear in recruiting. So Adonis Moise, definitely a hot commodity. He's a big track guy, I mentioned that earlier, but he has some really, really good stuff in the open field. Most dangerous in the screen game as of right now, but obviously it's early enough in his career that he's going to be a different player by the time he's at Kansas State once he has a little bit of that development. But a really, really solid ad. This is the 5th player in the class of 2025. K-State is now currently holding the 68th overall rank of any incoming freshman class in the class of 2025, which, no, it's not massive. Like, it's not some 17-player class, but it's so early in the class of 2025. I really think the headliner is going to be Lincoln Cure when it's all said and done, and then dudes are going to hit the K-State roster like a truck. I mean, there's going to be people coming in left and right after Lincoln Cure commits to Kansas State. In theory, I still don't know if this is a guarantee, and it's not by any means, but definitely something to keep your eyes out for. But overall, guys, Adonis Moise is a big recruiting win, and I'm excited to see what happens there. I also should mention before I move on to Coleman Hawkins, I really expect Kansas State to have 3 more recruits in the next week or so. Like, if you time it out, give me 3 new dudes. I think there's more visits happening every weekend. So I don't have anybody, off the top of my head. There's a couple guys that have favored Kansas State, so on and so forth. But either way, K-State is making the right additions and finding the right guys. So Adonis Moise adds to that list. But let's jump to Coleman Hawkins now, the Illinois transfer on the basketball court. We all know the type of player he is and the ability he has. I'm not going to run you through the stats or the highlights too much. I mean, I'll quickly recap and say he averaged 12-6 last season, or 12-5 last season at Illinois. He has so much NCAA tournament experience in big moments. He played against UConn last season. He played against Purdue in the past. Coleman Hawkins definitely adds a swagger and an element. Like this past week, in case you missed it, I don't know if you would have, especially if in the K-State community and are active online, Coleman Hawkins got into it a little bit in the middle of this beef with Hunter Dickinson for Kansas. Tyler Perry chimed in as well. And then he also jumped into it and dunked on an Iowa State fan, literally and figuratively, on the team. So it's a little bit of both. If you twist my arm and you had me make a prediction, he's going to be a Cat. I'm going to say it right now. I don't know any inside sources. I don't know Coleman personally. I don't have any opinions on this outside of just me being a fan. The only other visit he has on schedule is LSU, and I believe it's set for Monday the 17th. That's still a long time away, guys. You're watching this video on Wednesday morning. There's still a lot that has to happen between now and then, and I would expect something to happen, at least news-wise, that's something tangible we can go off of. There has been some rumored interest with SMU, but at some point with Coleman Hawkins, you wonder what the interest level actually is, because if I'm choosing between SMU, Kansas State, and LSU, this isn't even a question. I mean, I'm biased. I'm a K-State guy, but LSU's fine. They're fine. I mean, they got Cam Carter. I think he'll do well down there. but they're not a team that's going to strike you and say we could win a national championship. SMU, don't even get me started. They're throwing money at people and hoping for the best. I don't see either of those teams as top 25 teams. Maybe LSU sneaks a late top 25 if you add Coleman Hawkins, but I just don't see it. Kansas State becomes a top 10 roster in basketball with Coleman Hawkins. That lineup of Doug McDaniel, C.J. Jones, Coleman Hawkins, Achor, and Ugana Onyenso. I might have seen the pronunciation and might have been butchering that, so I think it's Ugana Onyenso technically. So that's on me if I've been messing that up. But as it sits right now, I want to exercise a little bit of caution to everybody. Don't jump ship because there hasn't been an immediate commitment or something to go off of right now. I still absolutely feel like Kansas State is in the lead for Coleman Hawkins by a sizable margin. And I think it's just going to be a situation of, hey, can we come to terms? Can we figure this out? Can we get things going? So I would roll with Kansas State to be the actual fit for Coleman Hawkins. Now, do I have something to send you off and say this is exactly what's going to happen? I don't have that kind of intel. I apologize, guys. But I do think Coleman Hawkins is meant to be a Wildcat. I think you read the writing on the wall. We got his first visit, canceled the Louisville visit to come to Kansas State. He's involved on social media, going back and forth with both of Kansas State's rivals. He said in a previous interview, I think it was with the Field of 68, hey, I'm not playing for another Big Ten school. And then he also said, well, two things actually. One, I want to go to a school where I can actually enjoy a football game. Coleman Hawkins, you've got a top 10 Heisman odds getter in a sophomore quarterback, Avery Johnson, stepping in right now. You'll enjoy a game as K-State wins the Big 12 and goes to a college football playoff. And the other thing is he loves rivalries. What better situation, what better way to see that than having both Kansas and Iowa State chime in being like, no, you're not good at basketball. You stink. They stink. They'll be bad. And then Coleman getting to see that firsthand of like, oh, there's real hatred here between these three teams. So something interesting to follow. But when it's all said and done, I think he's going to be your last roster spot. If for some reason he's not, this is a very, very last-ditch effort. If it's not, I think it becomes Arthur Kaluma. Art hasn't ended up committing anywhere, so definitely still in play if that situation unfolds. But I do expect Coleman Hawkins to be that last guy. I would say this, to continue showing the kid love on social media, continue to toss stuff out there, whether it's memes or posts or whatever. See the kid interacting with the Kansas State fan base is always a good thing because you know how loud and proud we are. I know the type of player Coleman Hawkins is, and personally is off the court. We're like, the dude's not, shy and reserved. He's going to be out there and vocal about things. So definitely something to follow. But as it sits right now, go ahead and give me Coleman Hawkins. Get Kansas State to a top 10 spot. Put him at the top 5-ish in the Big 12 Conference, which I think will genuinely be a top 10 spot nationally. But if I hear anything else on that front or any news drops, you will definitely see a video from me. The schedule got a little wonky this weekend with some different news, so I apologize on that front, but I definitely am going to stay on top of this. This one was a little bit quicker than usual. I just wanted a rapid recap of what's going on. So K-State football has 5 2025 commits, and I expect a couple more here soon, and is still currently chasing Coleman Hawkins, and I expect that to get done soon-ish. We'll see how long this plays out, see if he takes that visit to LSU or not. But guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I will talk to you soon.